Welcome to the Business of Business San Antonio. I'm your host, Henry Cisneros, and in this hour, we're going to delve into the top business sectors driving the local economy, and there are many of them: medical research, tourism, the military, technology, and higher education, just to name a few. The economy of San Antonio is one of the best in the country at this time. What are we doing right, and what are the areas that need attention? These are some of the questions we want to delve into. Let's look into the crystal ball for 2023 and beyond. And the right person to start us down this path of delving into the economy of San Antonio is Jenna Saucedo-Herrera, President and CEO of Greater SATX. You'll remember it as the former San Antonio Economic Development Foundation, but under Jenna's leadership, it's been rebranded. Jenna, give us a sense of what the idea was in the rebranding and what it implies in terms of a change of strategy or direction.
Sure. Well, first of all, as you know, Henry, our organization has existed for over 45 years, and we are extremely proud of that history and our legacy as an organization, but equally as proud of where we're going as an organization. So today we are Greater SATX, a regional economic partnership, but our mission remains the same. Our mission is about jobs, job creation. How we go about delivering on that mission has evolved drastically over the years. So we have evolved our portfolio of services. We continue to be focused on corporate attraction or recruitment, but also focused on business retention and expansion, trade and export development, and probably most importantly, workforce development. So our portfolio of services has evolved, and also our scope and service territory has evolved. So we represent the broader 8-county region, San Antonio proper, of course, but the broader MSA. And that's, of course, not a novel idea in economic development. Most top-performing metro areas are structured as regional EDOs, but we evolved to a regional economic development construct over a year ago.
Now, this change has occurred over time. And obviously, at some point, somebody said, well, we need to focus on trade, and we have an export entity at work, but it's sort of spinning around on its own, and that ought to be brought in. And then this, as you say, major development of bringing in workforce. Tell me just a sense of how that occurred. Was it some particular leadership that created that, or just circumstances that required it over time?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
I mean, as we were evolving our strategy, you have to look at the state of play within the San Antonio community. And we had a few different organizations that had been created over time to fill a void or to fulfill a service. And as we were thinking about the comprehensive strategy, it made sense to integrate in certain scenarios and then acquire in certain scenarios. So we pulled the Free Trade Alliance under the umbrella.
Right.
And we also integrated SA Works, which was less of an organization, more of a brand, as our workforce development partner. And by the way, going back to the name change, that was also a part of it. When you inherit cultures, when you inherit teams of people,
Got it.
the EDF brand of old didn't necessarily resonate with all these different organizations.
Right.
So,
And I assume the Greater SATX has meaning of its own.
that's my favorite part, because for me, the greater denotes progress. It means that we want greater for SATX, for San Antonio, Texas.
But it's also greater in a geographic sense.
100%, yeah.
So now we have this 8-county focus. So when good things happen in Seguin, for example, with the Caterpillar company, that redounds to the benefit of the region, and we function more as a region. And I assume that the automotive commitments here, Toyota, Navistar, all the suppliers, et cetera, suggest a regional effort as well.
That's exactly right. And when most international or even domestic companies, when they're looking at investments, capital investments, job investments, they're not necessarily looking at city limits, right? They're looking at where their people will come from. And so manufacturing is a perfect example of the multiplier effect. When Toyota or Navistar located here, they needed those suppliers within the region to support them. Tesla is another example.
So how are we doing, Jenna? Tell me about right this minute.
So Henry, I think we're doing great. We continue to have regional announcements for manufacturing operations. Marici and Seguin, Aishan, AW, and Cibolo is expanding, and more to come on the Navistar front as well.
How big a blow was the pandemic? Are we through it? Do you have a sense for where we stand in the national picture after the pandemic?
The pandemic didn't discriminate, and so it impacted San Antonio and all of our industries, just like it impacted
We
the
had a
rest of the world.
slowdown in attraction.
We did. In fact, we actually refocused our attention here in San Antonio. We were trying to stop the bleeding and supporting primarily small businesses.
Right.
But we've since recovered from a job perspective. And if you look actually at our educational attainment in San Antonio, we actually grew by 3% during the pandemic in 2020 as a year, and that was higher than the rest of the country. So
How
we're making progress.
significant is the Austin-San Antonio connection? One has a sense that this could be the beginnings of a major central Texas metroplex from Pflugerville to Floresville, and points in between like Comal County and Hays County that are among the fastest growing counties in the country. Is that a real deal, or are we going to be basically separate in our economic development endeavors?
It's a very real deal, and I would actually drag that southern line down all the way into Monterey. I think right now the I-35 corridor, San Antonio to Austin, that's the most dynamic employment corridor in the country. If we can continue to work together and amplify our efforts, I think we'll be unstoppable.
And the collaboration with workforce, tell me a bit about that, because that's a real expansion of mission, but clearly a critical ingredient in your economic development efforts.
Yeah, today, economic development is workforce development. So talent, or the availability of talent, is the #1 site selection criteria that CEOs are considering. So San Antonio and the region, we've got to have that readily available workforce to fill their needs.
Jenna, people are very impressed with your leadership in these early years. How are you holding out yourself? How are you doing in terms of grabbing the job and moving it?
Oh, I was going to go down the path of telling you about my 2-year-old child, but work is
Well,
the
you've done
easy
that at
part
the
of my
same
life.
time.
It's been a lot of fun. I think we've got so much opportunity ahead. Every day's different, so it keeps me energized, it keeps me engaged, and I think I've got the best job in the country.
Well, and I think the community's fortunate to have you in that job, and you pulled together some very good people. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Henry.
Supported by Texas Mutual Insurance Company.